Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Louise from The Dusty Jacket. Today we're taking you back in time, from a pandemic in Pennsylvania to the partition in India. We'll discover a great Cuban abolitionist, look into a brotherly bond in the late 60s, and transport you to 16th century London, where a crippled girl stands taller than everyone around her. We're covering almost 400 years.
That's a lot.
As we review 5 great historical fictions for young adults. Let's get started. Our first book is Alchemy and Meggy Swann, written by Karen Cushman, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. It's 1570s London, and after the death of her gran, Margaret Meggy Swann is taken from Milford Village to London and placed at the doorstep of her father, Master Ambrose, the local alchemist. Meggy is none too pleased with her new home, heads mounted on sticks and placed on a bridge, the smell of fish and sewage everywhere, and streets slick and slippery from horse droppings.
Ew.
Between a mother who doesn't want her and a father who assumes she's nothing more than a beggar, Meggy is in a pretty unenviable position, crippled, penniless, and friendless, unless you count her goose, Louise. But Meggy is stronger than she thinks, and with the help of a cooper, a printer, and a rather smitten player, she not only saves a life, but she'll manage to save a soul as well.
Well, that's good news.
In a time when deformity and illness were viewed as a direct judgment from God, it would have been easy for Meggy to become bitter. Instead, she slowly transforms into a strong, proud, and confident young woman who refuses to let her circumstances define or limit her. Number 2 is Fever, 1793, written by Laurie Halls Anderson, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. It started with the sudden death of a young and healthy girl. Within a week, 64 more would die from yellow fever, and the capital city of Philadelphia would be filled with the endless ringing of bells, one toll for every year the victim had lived. In the summer of 1793, 14-year-old Matilda Cook helps run her family's coffee house, where folks idly gossip or talk politics.
What? I don't gossip.
Lately, the conversations have turned to the fever. Is it a sign from God? A punishment for sinners? Did the refugees bring it with them?
Too many questions. There's too many questions.
As death draws closer, Matilda and her grandfather are forced to flee the city for the safety of the country. But she soon discovers that death cannot be escaped so easily.
I will find you.
Anderson gives us a compelling, gripping, and suspenseful account of one of the worst epidemics in the history of the United States. Wiping out 10% of Philadelphia's population in under 3 months, the effects of yellow fever were devastating. Many fled the city to escape the carnage, but it was those who stayed and tended to the sick, as well as the dead, that were the true heroes. You don't have to be a fan of history to thoroughly enjoy this book. From the first page, the plot never slows, and the story will keep you on the edge of your seat. It reminds us of how the direst of circumstances often brings about the best in people, and that both disease and heroism are not limited by social status or race. Our third book is The Lightning Dreamer, Cuba's Greatest Abolitionist, by Margarita Engel, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. In a country where both men and words are closely guarded, it is the poet who proved to be the boldest and most daring abolitionist. Gertrudis Gomez de Avellaneda, nicknamed Tula, is 13 and enjoying her last year of freedom in Cuba. When she turns 14, she'll be sold into matrimony to the highest bidder, and her mother will use the proceeds to buy more slaves.
That's horrible.
Tula hates slavery and often feels enslaved herself by a society that denies her an education, the right to vote, or the freedom to choose when and whom she will marry. But Tula suddenly finds light in the convent library, where she discovers forbidden words of hope, rebellion, and the promise of freedom in a rebel poet's words.
There's always hope.
This book is based on the life of de Avellaneda, known as one of the world's most influential female writers. Written entirely in free verse, the story switches between numerous points of view to allow the reader to see firsthand the profound and unimagined impact that poetry has on its audience. During her lifetime, de Avellaneda fought for racial and gender equality, and although her ideas were considered radical at the time, her vision was eventually accepted, and Cuban slaves gained their freedom, schools became integrated, and young girls were able to enter into marriage voluntarily and for love. Number 4 is A Moment Comes by Jennifer Bradbury, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. In this book, the worlds of 3 teenagers are about to come together, and their journey will take them to what history would later refer to as the Partition of India of 1947. There's Tariq, 18, Muslim-born and raised in India. He aspires to study at Oxford. Anupreet is Sikh, nearly 16, and beautiful despite the scar that runs from her eye to her cheek. And Margaret, 16 and from London. Her father's job is to help break India into pieces so that Muslims could have their own separate state. The Partition of India of 1947 marked one of the greatest migrations in human history and resulted in more than 15 million people losing their homes and between 1 to 2 million people losing their lives. Bradbury is careful not to paint one party as good or another as bad, and instead lays out 3 lives told through alternating points of view that allow readers to form their own judgments and opinions.
That seems fair.
The story is fast-paced, harrowing, poignant, and bitter. In the end, Tariq, Anupreet, and Margaret were all able to let go of their own prejudices and realize that they themselves aren't so very different from one another, regardless of what the lines on a map might say. Our last book is War and Watermelon by Rich Wallace, which I rated 4 out of 5 stars. If you were to rank boys based on coolness, Brody Winslow would be there at the bottom. Low middle at best.
Not so much cool, but
But things could be worse. It's New Jersey, August 1969, and Brody will be starting junior high school, and his brother has promised to take him to a farm in upstate New York for some hippie concert protesting the war in Vietnam.
Woodstock?
Big changes are coming, and Brody is about to tackle them all, whether he's ready or not. Rich Wallace's early writing career was as a sports editor, and the football and baseball references abound in this book. But at its core is the special bond shared between brothers Ryan and Brody.
I love you, bro.
Unlike the competitive or jealous sibling relationships you find in some books, the Winslow boys are fiercely supportive, loyal, and kind to one another. There's also a tight-knit relationship between the boys and their father. Nights sitting up cheering on their Mets while eating olives and saltines, or laughing out loud to reruns of The Honeymooners, are treasured by all 3. This is a humorous and delightful book that's a little slice of Americana, served with grape soda pop, a bag of pretzels, in front of a black and white TV.
You wanna watch TV?
It isn't traumatic, suspenseful, or riddled with angst, and some may even call it trite or boring. But as Brody Winslow once said, we wander around for an hour, shoot some baskets, then go home. Yeah, it was boring, but that's life. Boring isn't always so bad. I would even go so far as to say that boring can be great. Well, that's it. We'll include a link to our Goodreads page in the comment section below if you want to read the full reviews of any of these books. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. Make sure to hit the bell so that you're notified when new videos become available. As always, thanks for watching, and I look forward to bringing back some old titles so that you can make new memories, because any time is a good time to dust off a new favorite. Keep reading!